the opportunity, the offering, the coercion, the invitation to receive the Gardasil 9 vaccine at very young ages for little boys and little girls. Parents need to know what HPV is and what you can do to either prevent it or to clear it if it is positive, because the vaccine has a whole slew of issues and problems with it. So this is another layer. This is not just men and women who are sexually active. It's also parents that need to know what is up with this vaccine, because right around 9 years old, your pediatrician, if you're seeing a regular pediatrician, they will likely recommend this vaccine for your child.
Well, this isn't medical advice, and nothing ever is.
No.
But I actually don't want to ever see a pediatrician for my son or my daughter. I'd rather just go to people that I trust in my network. Yeah. Now, granted, I'm in a specific bubble where I have access to that. But for the average person, this is why what you do is so important, because if they don't hear this message, and if somebody that is suffering or that just found out they have HPV doesn't hear this, they may fall into the clutches of what I call the system or the medical mafia.
Yeah.
And I got a glimpse of that when Nova was born. It was probably the most, I want to say, like top 3 traumatic things in my life, just to go through the NICU and just see the belly of the beast from inside of its intestines. Like it was next level trauma for all of us. And granted, those people there, I don't think they have ill intent. I don't think they're evil people. They're doing the best they can with the knowledge and education and really all the work they put in to get there. They don't want to have any kind of like overload of letting go of the 10 years of schooling that got them there, what their ego might react to if they were to all of a sudden see the light. But what happens in the darkness is, this is on the screen right now, the Gardasil lawsuit accused Merrick of fraudulently concealing evidence regarding the health risks of Gardasil while falsely promoting it as a vaccine that can prevent cervical cancer. To me, I'm like, okay, it doesn't surprise me, but it also still makes me sad. Like I can't get away from the emotion of a company actually knowingly putting out a product. And it's not even I don't think that vaccines are products. I think vaccines are actually just tools to make money. A real product is of service, like true service.
Right.
And I'm not here to demonize anyone, but like the evil that is out there in the world, and maybe you can go into this a little bit. I'm sure it's why emotionally you care so much about helping people to not fall into the clutches of getting this vaccine. Go into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I care so much about this is not because, to my knowledge, I've never faced HPV. I've never been positive. So it doesn't come from direct personal experience, but my personal experience is in speaking to women over the past 4 years who are so desperate for help and have been completely left in the dark, left behind by their provider. That's what gets me so fired up. And not only that, I know the system is set up. Again, like you said, it's not because these gynecologists are bad people. I think, the large majority of doctors, physicians, providers get into the medical world because they truly want to help people. But we know how the system is set up. It's not set up to help your long-term health and vitality thrive. It's set up to manage symptoms, not to look at what those symptoms might mean upstream and go upstream and fix those and address those, like what I try to do, how I try to help women. It's like, okay, your body's having a symptom of cervical dysplasia, which is where the cervical tissue starts to degrade and become damaged because of this HPV virus. So that's the manifestation, is this cervical dysplasia. Their answer, their solution, that I say in the heaviest quotes possible, is to go in and remove a portion of the cervix. Cutting away a part of the body is not a solution. It's not a treatment. You're literally just turning off the check engine light. So it's not addressing anything. And there are more non-solution solutions that we can certainly go into. But this is a huge issue for me. This is a point of passion, obviously. It started out as curiosity and just simply wanting to get information out, knowing that, something like AHCC has been proven to eradicate HPV. But that's where it started. And I was like, oh, I need to tell people about this. Once I did start telling people about this, I would get droves and droves of women sometimes I would go on these big shows as a guest, and then the next day my inbox would be full of hundreds of messages from women who are like, oh my God, I'm in this place. I'm so scared. I'm so anxious. My doctor hasn't told me anything. Once you hear thousands of stories like that, you realize there's such a deep, deep problem in our medical system, that these women are completely left to their own devices. And it may not be a big deal for the provider because of the prevalence, it's being diagnosed probably 5 times a day for that provider. So it's not a big deal to her. So she says, okay, come back in 6 months, we'll check you again. That woman now hears HPV, and now she's running through all the things, all the questions, the concerns. She's laying awake at night wondering, is this going to affect my fertility? How do I even bring this up with my partner? Am I at risk of getting cancer? Is this going to affect the rest of my life? Am I going to die from this? Like, I've literally heard women say, I feel like I'm going to die from this. And once you hear thousands of stories like that, this passion in me has just gotten deeper and deeper and deeper. This seed has just gone deeper and deeper and deeper inside of me as I speak to more women and realize how big of a problem this is.
Do they find out about it just on a normal, like, annual pap smear? Is that where they find out about the HPV results typically?
Yeah. So generally, women over 21 go in, get their pap smear, and then after 21, it's recommended to start getting tested, or actually after 30. After 30 is when they start testing for HPV. You can ask for the HPV test or screen, but they might not do it automatically until age 30. So you can ask for it. If they see that there's an abnormality on the pap smear, then they might say, okay, we need to do an HPV screening, or we recommend this. They might just do them together. It's a little different for everyone. Depends on age and things like that. But so every 1 to 3 years, usually women are going in and having this screening done. They're looking at their cervix, and it's usually either coming back normal or abnormal. And then they look at it from there. Okay, this looks like it's HPV related. And then from there are different levels of severity of the cervical dysplasia that this can cause. Cervical dysplasia just meaning, again, that the cervical tissue is starting to change, transform, degrade. And if that goes on long enough without being addressed, it can turn into something like cervical cancer.
Okay. So for me, I would never freaking experience HPV like Carrie Michelle. Like, it just wouldn't happen.
Right.
The amount of physicality that goes down with the degradation of the cervix, which is like so sad, which brings it back to my other question that we don't have an answer for. Why would infinite intelligence create this message for us? I do believe that chaos wants order. So there's some type of order that's wanting to be sought out by this being here. And then what happens is I think we live in this ego construct of a society where anything that's not understood is first vilified. Anything that is not understood, that doesn't make sense, like gravity, that we can't see it or feel it or touch it or understand exactly why it's there, it gets demonized. And I find that to be the case more often than not, unfortunately. So I want to go back to the shame part of it, because there is so much shame around just our society and sex. And even look what happened in the 80s and 90s and the 2000s with AIDS, and just all the ways that everyone is judged, quote, quote, for just having sex, which is a beautiful part of being alive, right? We have sex, we eat food, we bring life into the world. Talk about the shame aspect of this, because I think so many people are suffering. So many women specifically are suffering with this.
Yeah.
Why do women feel so much shame around HPV?
Yeah, this is a big question, a seemingly simple question maybe, but I think it's multifaceted. One is the societal, just our culture, on Carl's Jr. commercials, on billboards, on Instagram, like sex is just plastered everywhere. Yet someone might walk by a mother with, a child who's breastfeeding with her breast out or visible or whatever. And they're like, oh my God, she just wants attention or something like that. Like that's a very, very low vibration thought. But it's like, holy crap, how is there this huge, huge discrepancy between a woman's body and sexuality and what her actual, like functional, breast milk is for the baby and everything. So there's this huge discrepancy. We know that. And I think with HPV, I think sometimes this can be rooted back to, believe it or not, like it or not, America does have this imprint of religion in our society, like on our money, in God we trust. I don't know a lot of people who don't celebrate Christmas, which is technically a religious holiday. Easter, things like that. We have this imprint, this low sort of like religious essence to our society, to our country. And in that space, sex is demonized. Sex is wrong. Sex is bad. Sex is gonna, I grew up in the evangelical Christian church, and
that is not for the faint of heart.
No,
that's like a
not.
roller coaster for the soul. Evangelical,
yes.
Evangelical and Pentecostal, both.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Christian church, and sex was this huge thing that they wanted you to think didn't exist. So if you found out that one of your friends in youth group or church or school, I went to a Christian school as well, was having sex, it was like you judge them, you demonize them, they are not to be hung out with. So I'm not saying that this is the case for everyone. I'm just making a point that there is this imprint on our society. And so I think that our view of sex and sexuality is completely distorted from a lot of different things. And so I think within that, we have to we get to really sort of play detective and figure out why would a woman feel shame about having basically the equivalent of the common cold for the cervix, right? Because of how common it is. And because we can interact with HPV, our body can deal with it. And we might never even know that we were ever positive. Our body's dealt with it and we're fine, just like the common cold. But for some people, they get the common cold and they don't do well. Some people, they get HPV and they don't do well. And so this is our opportunity, I think, to take a step back and look at why is there this shame piece? This is what makes the HPV virus very dangerous, in my opinion, because less than 1% are going to develop cervical cancer, right? The odds are in your favor that you're probably not going to die of cervical cancer. What makes it dangerous is that when people get this diagnosis, specifically women, because they're the ones that are going and getting tested through their Pap screening and things, they have to carry this burden. And for most of them, it is a huge burden on their shoulders, not knowing who they can talk to. I literally just had a call with a woman this week who joined our Clear and Free program. She said that, I don't even want to say this out loud because it's so heartbreaking to me.
Say it, please.
She said that she told her girlfriend after she was diagnosed HPV positive, and her girlfriend, they were at her apartment and they were cooking dinner together, and her girlfriend said, "Well, I don't want to eat your food. You have HPV." And that's whether she said it in jest or not. When the woman who I was speaking to said this, it didn't seem like it was in jest. And that is, you now feel like you're tainted, you're dirty, you're gross, you're this, where people don't want to interact with you because you have this infection. That is fucking heartbreaking. And how do you place that? Even if you know it's not true, how do you place that? And so I think when people don't, all that to say, this is what makes HPV most dangerous, I think, is the shame aspect, because people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to ask questions. They don't want to, call up their girlfriends hey, did you guys, any of you have HPV? I'm trying to get rid of this thing. How'd you deal with it? Chances are they did. They have tested positive just based on the statistics, but people don't want to talk about it. They don't even want to talk to their partners about it. Sometimes I am the only person that this woman has told in the world that she has HPV, and she's had it for maybe a few years. So the shame aspect is very real, very dangerous. And it's not a flip of a switch. If you've felt shame in your life for anything that you've done.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never felt shame. at all. Maybe.
Well, you must be floating over there, because I certainly have, and it is not a flip of a switch. Once you realize, like, okay, I know intellectually I shouldn't have shame about this thing.
Yeah.
I know I did nothing wrong. Why do I have shame about this thing? We know that we shouldn't carry this shame. So why does it linger? Why does it stick around? It's a story that we tell ourselves, and we have to take the time to rewrite that story. And that takes time.
Check out some of the videos on this screen that are perfectly curated based on the video you just saw. Make sure you follow me, and I'll see you in the next video.